Hey there, this is Della Rucker, principal of the Wise Economy Workshop, and author of the recent book, The Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived. It's very washed out. There you go. Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived, What's Changed, and How You Can Help. Today, I wanted to give you a little reading from the introduction to what I call Undercurrent Number 2. Undercurrent number 2, and this book starts with a review of 3 sort of major issues that I think are really defining how local communities and small businesses and basically the local lives that we lead are all being influenced by these 3 core undercurrents. So the second one is unintended figures. I get on here and then I start coughing. Unintended consequences. So this is a little introduction to that section. And if you like what you end up hearing, you can find The Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived wherever you order your books, print, digital, Kindle, whichever. Again, The Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived. What's changed and how you can help. So this is from Undercurrent number 2, Unintended Consequences. As communities, as humans, really, we do a consistently lousy job of remembering that our brilliant ideas and why hasn't anyone else thought of this, holy shit, I'm a genius moments have this annoying tendency to not turn out exactly the way we intended. Sometimes our brilliant ideas just plain don't work. But even more often, our brilliant idea does exactly what it was intended to do, and a whole lot more besides. Those additional impacts are called unintended consequences. And psychologists and cognitive scientists have demonstrated that we are inclined to overestimate how much we know what we are doing. They've also documented that unless we force ourselves to do otherwise, we tend to ignore the fact that our choices can create or set us up for other impacts that were not what we had in mind. So, welcome to Human Existence 101. This is another one of those situations where the mental tricks we evolved to help us survive the Ice Age don't fit so well with the complexities of our societies today. If you're a nomadic hunter-gatherer, thinking through all of the things that could go wrong with that mastodon hunt might mean that you never left the cave. The problem is that we live, of course, in much more complex environments. And we found that in the last 150 years or so, we have to actively manage these environments. And we try to improve our communities using the same basic mental tools that allowed us to hunt mastodons. And as a result, we place our faith in our ability to find and implement the right answer. And we allow ourselves to conveniently forget to think about what else might go wrong. All of that would be excusable if it weren't for the fact that so much of our community's current problems are themselves the unintended consequences of a previous generation's overconfident right answer. So think for a minute about how these 20th and 21st century innovations have impacted your community. They had benefits as intended, to be sure, but they also created new, wide-ranging problems. Urban renewal, highway construction, exurban new housing construction, or sprawl, pension underfunding, culvertizing creeks, which means to put a creek in a big concrete tunnel, or ditch. Retail oversupply. Teach to the test. You will probably have your own list of the unintended consequences of those choices. For sake of reference, here's mine. More infrastructure than we have easily available, non-painful to extract money to take care of. Regions that are too spread out to walk or to serve with transit when we discover that our old assumptions about everyone driving a car don't work anymore because there's too many old people, gas is too expensive, etc. Populations that were displaced from stable, if not wealthy, neighborhoods and making a mess of the social fabric and teaching generations that the systems that were supposed to help them were equally likely to screw them over. Buildings, parking lots, acres, more acres that don't have an economic use, or at least not an economic use that can pay for itself and pay for cleaning up the mess from the things that were there before. Governments and nonprofit budgets under unrelenting, unending pressure to cut, while at the same time doing more. If you work in government and you feel the need to bludgeon the next person who says you should do more with less, I'll hold your books for you. So much of what we face in our communities today can be traced exactly back to the bright ideas and magic bullet solutions of previous generations. Huge amounts of the resources we have to work with have to be chewed up, sucked up, consumed by undoing the impacts that those big idea generators of past generations never thought of or never admitted to thinking of back then. So you would think we would know better, that we'd put at least some thought into not getting fooled again. But we don't. Too often, we set ourselves up to make the same exact mistake. You can spot that coming when you hear a phrase like, we just have to implement a form-based code, build a train system, build a convention center, a ballpark, a big something. Hire a very expensive consultant. Spend a lot of money. So those are unintended consequences. They're real, they exist, and they aren't going away. So we have to learn to deal with them better. And we can. There's no easy formula, but there's ways that we can become more rigorous in thinking them through. In the next few sections that I'll read over the next few days, we'll talk about a few ways that we can do that. And because one of the characteristics that we commonly attribute to people who are wise is the ability to think ahead, we'll frame a lot of this in terms of wise people. Think Einstein, Desmond Tutu, maybe your mom. My kids would probably not think of their mom. You can also think of the story of the wise men from the Christian Bible. 3 people recognize the signs in advance of what's going to happen. They react appropriately, and then they anticipate what could happen if they go back and tell that king where the baby is. Their wise choice to go back home a different way avoided an unintended consequence. Of course, it set up a different, rather awful unintended consequence for the children of that state. And that also tells us something. Unintended consequences, sometimes bad ones, will still happen sometimes, despite our best efforts to anticipate them and head them off. But that doesn't mean that we don't have an obligation to try to prevent them. So again, that is from The Local Economy Revolution Has Arrived, What's Changed, and How You Can Help. This is available, print or digital, wherever you get your books. And if you care about your community, your business, or your organization, I think you'll find it worthwhile. It'll certainly give you some food for thought. So thanks again for listening. I'm Della Rucker with the Wise Economy Workshop. And until later, go get them. Bye.